At long last, the seminal sci-fi novel Dune is returning to the big screen, and with the release date looming, Warner Bros. Has finally released the first trailer for this lavish adaptation. But if you're not familiar with Frank Herbert's epic saga of betrayal, spice, and giant ravenous worms, we're here to break down all the important moments in the first trailer. The trailer opens with a close-up shot of Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides on the desert world of Arrakis. This shot immediately sets up the defining theme of the trailer, a conflict between light and dark. Most of the footage we see here is defined by either the bright, harsh landscape of Arrakis or dark, moody interiors. There's very little color in this movie, which seems to be a very intentional choice on the part of director Denis Villeneuve. That theme of light and dark plays into the trailer's choice of soundtrack. We hear a down-tempo rendition of Pink Floyd's Eclipse, the final track from 1973's The Dark Side of the Moon. It's an appropriate choice of needle drop, especially with the closing line, "Everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon." It speaks to that eternal conflict between good and evil, and the fact that Paul can see the course of the future but struggles to understand how to change that future and reshape his own destiny. Most of the footage seen in the trailer is based on early scenes from Frank Herbert's novel. For example, we see Paul meeting with Charlotte Rampling's Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, the leader of the Bene Gesserit religious order. Paul is undergoing the first of several rites of passage here by placing his hand inside a torture box. Only by keeping his hand in place and enduring the pain can he prove himself to be a man rather than an animal. It's a crucial scene that hints at the grand destiny awaiting Paul.
What's in the box?
Pain.
As we see throughout the trailer, Paul is having visions of the future mostly centered around Zendaya's character, Chani. Later shots show Paul meeting Chani in the flesh, which should give Dune readers some idea of how far into the story this movie will get. Dune is getting split into 2 movies, so don't expect to see the entirety of the novel make it into this first film. Several characters in the Dune saga have psychic and precognitive powers, including Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson, and the other members of the Bene Gesserit. That power comes from the spice melange, which is only found on Arrakis and makes that planet the most desirable world in the entire universe. Spice grants all sorts of other superhuman powers, including long life and enhanced reflexes. And if you're wondering why Chani and other characters in the trailer have bright blue eyes, that's a telltale sign of a heavy spice user. One shot shows Paul dueling with Josh Brolin's Gurney Halleck. Gurney is the right-hand man to Paul's father, Duke Leto, played by Oscar Isaac, and one of Paul's mentors, along with Jason Momoa's Duncan Idaho. We can also see they're wearing protective energy shields during the duel, one of the many handy inventions in this futuristic universe. Those shields are the reason most of the fighting in the trailer is done with blades rather than guns. Shields explode when hit by laser blasts, killing both the wearer and the attacker. That forces soldiers like Gurney and Duncan to fight up close and personal, which seems just fine with Duncan. This shot features another iconic piece of Dune tech, a hovercraft known as an Ornithopter. The movie's depiction of the Thopter looks like a giant mechanical insect, which speaks to the unusual relationship people have with technology in this universe. Computers and atomic weapons are both outlawed, forcing humans to rely on trained human mentats to pilot starships and make complex calculations. Chen's character, Dr. Wellington Yue, is one of those mentats. There's a fine line between biology and technology in this franchise. The trailer shows Paul and his family moving from the watery world of Caladan to take control of Arrakis, where Caladan is watery and peaceful. Arrakis is harsh, hot, and full of suffering. While we only see glimpses of Stellan Skarsgård's Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and Dave Bautista's Glasu Rabban, these characters are the main villains of the 2 Dune movies. House Harkonnen is the eternal enemy of House Atreides, and while Duke Leto and his family seem to have won a major victory after taking control of Arrakis from the Harkonnens, Leto knows he's probably walking into a trap by setting foot on Dune. The trailer shows us glimpses of 2 other characters worth knowing. Javier Bardem plays Stilgar, a leader of the native Fremen on Arrakis. These desert nomads understand Arrakis and its spice better than anyone, and forming an alliance with the Fremen is one of the biggest challenges facing House Atreides. But as luck would have it, the Fremen tell stories of a messiah called the Lisan al-Gaib, a prophet from another world who will transform Arrakis forever. Could Paul be that messiah? Sharon Duncan-Brewster is playing Dr. Liet Kynez. She's an imperial planetologist who's been assigned to study the ecology of Arrakis, but her true loyalties lie with the Fremen. She's even sent her daughter Chani to live among Stilgar's people. The trailer ends with a glimpse of the most iconic monsters from the Dune series, the dreaded sandworm. These massive creatures roam the deserts of Arrakis and are attracted by rhythmic noises like the ones made by the machinery used to harvest spice. As Paul sees firsthand, the last thing you want is to be at ground zero of a sandworm attack. We also hear a voiceover of Paul reciting one of the most iconic pieces of verse in all of science fiction, a Bene Gesserit mantra called the Litany Against Fear. Even if you've never read or watched Dune, you've surely heard the lines, "I must not fear, fear is the mind killer." Only by remembering his training and proving himself to be a brave, calculating man rather than a fearful, instinctual animal can Paul survive the challenges that await him. And that's everything we found in the first Dune trailer. Did we miss anything? Let us know what you think of this footage, and for all things Dune, keep it locked to IGN.